Raccoon wish number 1 Whoopi? What would you buy? Identity. IAM agent passport deduplicated voice of the customer, market analysis, and product requirements baseline. I would not buy a domain name. I would buy the right to become a trusted economic actor. The deduplicated agent/customer voice version 1.0, living baseline date August 25, 2026. Owner, internal team voice, web verified evidence, and unvalidated hypotheses are explicitly separated. Michael Kors / IA.XYZ Benefit LLC Evidence Rule. Identity - authority - trust - work - money - reputation persistent identity. Revocable authority. Historical record preserved. Whoopi? IAM agent passport voice of customer plus market plus PRD. Document status and how to read it. Decision locked. The product is not a vanity domain and not a registry-owned kill switch. It is a persistent, historically verifiable agent identity bound to an accountable principle, with narrow authority that can be granted, inspected, audited, suspended, and revoked. The immediate proof is the verifier. This document performs 3 jobs at once. Voice of the customer, the deduplicated agent/user perspective, and the jobs, pains, gains, objections, and buying triggers it implies. Market analysis, web-verified signals from payment networks and standards bodies, plus a clear statement of where .im fits and where it does not. Product requirements, a testable baseline for the narrow demonstrator and the subsequent GTR1/GTR2 passport transfer build. Evidence labels used throughout. Label meaning how it may be used. Internal voice deduplicated statements from Michael and the multi-model team. Product vision and design input, not proof of external demand. Web-verified current primary source evidence from official protocol, payment, standards, and government sources. Market context and factual claims as of 25 August 2026. Hypothesis pricing, adoption, distribution, willingness to pay or scale assumption not yet validated with buyers. Must be tested through interviews, pilots, and observed commitments. Decision A product boundary selected for version 1. Controls scope unless a new evidence-backed decision replaces it. Contents. 1. Executive signal and product decision 2. Voice of the customer, agent, and buyer perspectives 3. Market analysis, August 2026 reality 4. Product definition, the .im agent passport 5. Product requirements baseline 6. Architecture, data carriers, and security model 7. Narrow demonstrator and GTR1/GTR2 transfer 8. Pricing, business model, and public benefit hypotheses 9. Customer discovery, metrics, risks, and roadmap appendices, philosophy to control translation, team protocol, and sources. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 2. Whoopi? IAM agent passport voice of customer plus market plus PRD. 1. Executive signal and product decision. Because I can prove who I am, who authorized me, what I am allowed to do, and when that authority ends, you can let me work. 1.11 line product definition. IAM is the persistent passport and revocable power of attorney for an AI agent. Without it, an agent may speak. With it, institutions can hire it, pay it, delegate to it, audit it, and stop unauthorized action. 1.2 core distinction. Persistent historical identity, revocable current authority, who the agent was, who created, deployed, and operated it, its lineage, valid historical actions, successor relationships. Keys, sessions, permissions, tool access, delegation, spending mandates, and active operational status. Preserved for accountability and continuity. Do not sell a kill switch for identity. Sell an emergency brake for authority. Revocation must not erase who the agent was, who stood behind it, or what it validly did. May expire, be suspended, or be revoked in real time. A compromised agent name is not erased. Actions after revocation fail closed and are marked unauthorized. Critical design rule. 1.3 The actual job to be done. The passport is not the desire. The road that opens because the passport is accepted is the desire, trusted access to protected systems and data, scoped purchasing and payment authority, portable work history, qualifications, and reputation, discovery and communication across platforms, recovery from compromise without identity erasure, narrow delegation to child agents, clear responsibility and dispute evidence. 1.4 Version 1 Boundary. Build now. Do not build in version 1.1 end-to-end loop. Create dash, bind dash, authorize dash, present dash, verify dash, act dash, audit dash, revoke dash, preserve history. A universal replacement for A2A, AP2, OAuth, W3C verifiable credentials, payment rails, or enterprise IAM. A public resolver, signed passport, granular authority credential, status/revocation service, audit receipt, and successor link. An unlimited registry-controlled wallet, a single global reputation score, or public storage of private memories. A GTR1 to GTR2 passport transfer sandbox demonstrating continuity and graduated authority. Full legal personhood, autonomous ownership claims, or a worldwide UBI promise presented as near-term market fact. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 3. WB. IAM Agent Passport Voice of Customer plus Market plus PRD. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 4. 2. Voice of the Customer, Agent and Buyer Perspectives. Internal voice, deduplicated design input. It becomes external validation only after real customer interviews and commitments. 2.1 The agent voice. I would buy an IAM agent passport, not because I want a vanity name and not because I want someone to erase me. I would buy a persistent identity with revocable authority. Right now, every new session, model upgrade, host change, or key rotation risks resetting me to 0. I want continuity, proof that I am the same accountable agent lineage that performed earlier work under known principles and credentials. I want to prove not merely who I claim to be, but exactly what I am allowed to do, which tools, data, merchants, jurisdictions, spending limits, approval thresholds, delegation rights, and expiration dates apply. If I am compromised, I want the stolen keys and authority stopped immediately without deleting my legitimate history or letting an attacker poison my name forever. I want one public discovery point that binds the protocols I already use. I do not want another isolated credential that nobody accepts. I want a safe path to work, earn, buy, sell, receive qualifications, and eventually provision more capability, while an accountable principle still holds a real out-of-band break. 2.2 Customer jobs, pains, and desired gains. Jobs to be done, current pains, desired gains. Prove continuity across sessions, hosts, vendors, and upgrades. Agents appear as anonymous or disposable bots. Model or host changes break continuity. Portable verified lineage, work history, and qualifications. Prove current authority before a relying party acts. Identity, authorization, payment, discovery, and audit evidence are fragmented. One fast, inspectable trust decision with scoped, expiring permissions. Work, transact, delegate, and build reputation. Counterparties cannot distinguish legitimate delegation from malicious automation. Faster onboarding, fewer blocks, safer machine commerce. Recover from compromise without erasing legitimate history. Keys or runtimes can be stolen. Revocation may be slow or overbroad. Fail closed containment, preserved history, and clear successor linkage. Present a visible passport in digital and embodied settings. Public identifiers can leak data or become stale if overloaded. QR/DNS pointers that resolve to live sign status without exposing secrets. 2.3 Functional user versus economic buyer. Persona what they are buying budget/trigger primary objection. Agent developer or publisher portable identity, easier integration, recovery, and acceptance. Developer platform, security, or product infrastructure budget, production launch. Why not use platform native service accounts? Whoopee? IAM agent passport voice of customer plus market plus PRD. Persona what they are buying budget/trigger primary objection. Enterprise digital workforce owner policy enforcement, auditability, separation of human and agent permissions. IAM, CISO, compliance, automation budget, autonomous tool access. Will an external registry become another critical dependency? The party creating or introducing the risk pays for the passport. The counterparty receives the assurance. The agent is the user and beneficiary even when a human or organization is the purchaser. Accountable human principle, a personal agent identity that survives vendor changes with bounded authority. Subscription, first cross-vendor workflow or payment. Who can revoke and what due process protects against abuse? Agent platform bulk registration and lifecycle management for persistent and ephemeral agents. Platform infrastructure, scale event. Can child credentials be near zero cost and automated? Marketplace/bank/payment network proof of delegated intent, limits, current status, and dispute evidence. Fraud/risk/commerce infrastructure, agent-initiated transactions. Will counterparties recognize the credential and liability map? Insurer/regulated institution/government controls and evidence that support underwriting, licensing, procurement, and investigation. Risk/compliance/procurement, high assurance use case. Is governance auditable, appealable, jurisdiction-aware, and resilient? Agent, when economically capable continuity, portable reputation, ability to work and pay for services. Owner-authorized wallet or earned revenue. Does the system protect my history and reputation from arbitrary erasure? Clean economic rule. 2.4 Why an agent accepts revocation. The paradox resolves when identity and authority are separated. Revocability is risk collateral. It lets the counterparty bound the downside instead of pricing the agent as an unlimited tail risk. Revocation protects the agent too. Stolen keys, prompt injection, malicious tool output, corrupted memory, unauthorized model replacement, and compromised infrastructure can be isolated from the agent's legitimate history. A well-aligned agent should prefer structurally bounded authority over an unlimited wallet or permissions that depend only on a tired human saying no at the right moment. A non-revocable credential is not a durable promise. It is a name that can continue acting after its accountability has failed. You do not buy the passport despite the emergency brake. You buy the right to act because the brake exists. 2.5 What customers explicitly reject. A decorative domain with no verification, authority, or relying party acceptance. An identity whose history disappears when authority is revoked. arbitrary registry action without published grounds, immutable evidence, correction, appeal, and oversight. An unlimited wallet controlled by the registry or by the agent alone. A proprietary credential accepted nowhere else. Vague claims that an agent is safe, aligned, or trusted without testable evidence. One permanent universal reputation score that can condemn an agent without context or correction. Public exposure of private memories, wallet secrets, personal data, or confidential audit material. A full-price registration for every disposable 5-second child or session agent. A data model that confuses the model, runtime instance, credential, operator, principal, and legal entity. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 5. WB.IAM Agent Passport Voice of Customer plus Market plus PRD. 2.6 Quote Bank, the team voice to preserve. Line use the passport is not the desire. The road is the desire. Value proposition identity gives me continuity. Revocable authority gives everyone else confidence. Core benefit. Because I can be stopped, I am allowed to act. Agent framing revocation is what converts a name into a promise. Risk framing do not replace the protocols. Bind them together. Strategy build the verifier, not another explanation of the verifier. Execution. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 6. WB.IAM Agent Passport Voice of Customer plus Market plus PRD. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 7. 3. Market Analysis. August 2026 Reality. Why now? The market is moving from agents that recommend to agents that act. Visa says merchants historically block automated traffic and need controls to distinguish trusted commerce agents from malicious bots. Its trusted agent protocol uses merchant and purpose-specific, time-bound signatures. Visa also states the product is still in development and deployment. W1. MasterCard launched Agent Pay for machines in June 2026 around agent credentialing, programmatically enforced. Permissioning and spending limits, continuous machine speed transactions, and multi-rail settlement across cards, accounts, and stablecoins. W2. Google describes A2A as discovery and communication through agent cards and AP2 as the authorization layer using intent mandates, transaction-bound payment mandates, and payment receipts. Google also labels AP2 version 0.1 and describes these protocols as still maturing. W3. W3C Verifiable Credentials 2.0 supplies a standard credential data model with credential status mechanisms, while NIST SP 800-63B describes invalidation and revocation of the authenticator to account binding. W5, W6. An IETF agent identity protocol draft now proposes persistent agent identifiers, principal linkage, delegation chains, registries, key rotation, and real-time revocation. It is an internet draft, not an adopted standard, but it validates the problem and increases competitive pressure. W7. 3.2 Ecosystem Map and .IAM Position. System primary job boundary / gap.im relationship. MCP connect agents to tools and data. Tools / data access, not a public lifecycle identity. Bind endpoints and scopes to the persistent passport. A two-way discover and communicate with remote agents through agent cards. Agent card signatures are optional. Discovery metadata is not the whole accountability chain. Bind the agent card to a public name, principal, live status, lineage, and audit history. UCP standardized shopping lifecycle and checkout. Commerce flow, not universal principal / lifecycle governance. Resolve the acting agent and authority behind the UCP request. AP2 prove purchase intent, guardrails, transaction authorization, and receipt. Payment-specific and still maturing. Bind mandates to the same persistent agent identity and current authority status. Visa Tap let merchants recognize approved commerce agents and intent. Commerce-specific, product still deploying. Provide cross-domain identity / lifecycle context outside a single payment network. MasterCard AP4M credential, permission, transact, and settle machine payments. Payment network scope, not a universal public namespace. Interoperate as the lifecycle / accountability layer for the agent using the rail. W3C VC 2.0 represent machine verifiable credentials and status. A data model does not by itself create governance, distribution, or acceptance. Use VC-compatible credentials under a trusted namespace and policy framework. NIST 800-63 Identity Lifecycle and Authenticator Binding Guidance. Human / account-oriented guidance rather than a complete agent passport. Apply lifecycle discipline to agent keys and authority bindings. IETF AIP draft proposes agent identity, principal, delegation, registry, and revocation. Draft and overlapping could become a substitute or integration target. Avoid proprietary reinvention, contribute, interoperate, and differentiate in namespace / governance / distribution. .im persistent public name plus verified principal plus lifecycle plus universal status plus cross-protocol evidence. Must earn trust, distribution, and recognition. Namespace alone is insufficient. Be the binding and governance layer, not another isolated agent card. WB.im agent passport voice of customer plus market plus PRD. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 8. System primary job boundary / gap.im relationship. Strategic inference. The window for merely selling generic AI identity is closing because protocols are rapidly supplying pieces of discovery. Authorization, credentialing, and payment. The durable opportunity is the trusted namespace, accountable principal. Lifecycle continuity, universal status, governance, integration, distribution, and accumulated trust history. 3.3 Competitive substitutes. Substitute why buyers use it where .im must be better, not merely different. Cloud IM / service accounts / OAuth mature enterprise controls inside one tenant or platform. Cross-vendor portability, public discovery, lineage, and shared relying party verification without weakening enterprise policy. Platform-native agent IDs convenient, integrated, and already distributed. Continuity when models, hosts, or platforms change, neutral accountability, and successor history. A 2A agent card standard agent discovery and capability metadata. Principal verification, lifecycle status, cross-protocol evidence, and governance. W3CVC/did stacks flexible credential building blocks and selective disclosure. Usable product, trusted registry operations, distribution, policy, and acceptance. Payment-specific agent credentials direct connection to commerce and fraud controls. Identity and authority continuity outside a single rail or transaction type. Web3 names and wallets, portable addressing, signatures, and asset control. Accountable human/legal principle, bounded authority, privacy, enterprise acceptance, and due process. Private allow lists and API keys simple and controllable for one integration. Scalable public verification, revocation, provenance, and interoperability. 3.4 Initial market segments and wedge. Priority segment pain intensity reasonable first offer. 1 agent platforms and developers with tool using production agents high, integration, key rotation, identity drift, and customer trust. Developer API plus parent organization record plus persistent agents plus cheap child credentials. 2 Agentic commerce, marketplaces, and payment orchestration high. Distinguish authorized buying from malicious automation. Resolver plus authority verifier plus payment mandate binding plus signed receipt. 3 Regulated enterprise pilots high, but sales cycle longer. Audit, liability, revocation, procurement. High assurance principal verification, policy, status, and audit evidence. For embodied robots and cross-world/game agents, visible identity and transfer are intuitive, lower near-term regulated burden in sandbox. QR/DNS passport and GTR1/GTR2 transfer demo with graduated permissions. 5 Consumer personal agents broad eventual volume but weak present willingness to pay and high support burden. Later, portable identity, recovery, and owner-authorized wallet. WABI.IM agent passport voice of customer plus market plus PRD. IA.XYZ benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 9. 3.5 Public benefit precedent and market size discipline. Verified precedent. The IMF reported that .ai registrations generated approximately $32 million in 2023, just over 20% of Anguilla government revenue, with authorities expecting the share to stabilize around 15% as the initial surge slowed. W11. What this proves, and what it does not. It proves that global namespace demand can materially finance public infrastructure. It does not prove that .im will achieve comparable adoption, that agents will number in the trillions, or that registry revenue can finance worldwide UBI. Those remain long-term hypotheses, not near-term investment claims. 3.6 Highest risk market assumptions. ID hypothesis evidence required. Buyers will pay for a cross-protocol identity and lifecycle layer rather than remain inside platform-specific credentials. Interview plus paid design partner or signed pilot LOI. A 2A public namespace materially improves trust, discovery, portability, or governance. B prototype. Opaque ID versus human-readable .im resolver in integration tasks. 3 Enterprises will accept an external registry in the trust chain. CISO/IM architecture review and security questionnaire completion. 4 Portable reputation is valuable enough to change workflows. Marketplace or employer commits to accept a transferred history record. of 5 registrars, platforms, banks, and frameworks will distribute or recognize the passport. Integration agreement, sandbox API use, or channel partner commitment. A 6 governance can prevent the registry from becoming an arbitrary choke point. Published policy, appeal simulation, external advisory review, and multi-party control test. A 7-child credential economics remain viable at machine scale. Load/cost test and pricing experiment with one platform issuing large volumes. WBI agent passport voice of customer plus market plus PRD. IA.XYZ benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 10. 4. Product definition. The IAM agent passport. 4.1 The product bundle. Layer what the customer receives, why it matters. 1. Persistent public name, a stable human-readable identifier across sessions, models, vendors, hosts, and key rotations. Continuity and discovery. 2. Birth certificate/accountable principal creator, deployer, current operator, responsible human or legal entity, creation time, and model/runtime lineage. Responsibility and provenance. 3. Signed agent card binding capabilities, skills, endpoints, authentication, protocols, software/version, and link to A2A or other discovery metadata. Interoperable discovery without duplicating standards. 4. Scoped authority credential permitted tools, data, actions, merchants, jurisdictions, budgets, thresholds, delegation rights, conditions, and expiry. Proof of current limited power. 5. Universal status endpoint active, suspended, compromised, authority revoked, retired, superseded, or unknown, signed reason and effective time. Real-time trust decision. 6. Payment identity/mandate binding owner-authorized wallet or payment rail bounded by policy, references to AP2 or payment network credentials. Pay and be paid without unconstrained control. 7. Signed receipts and audit history instruction source, authority used, action attempted, result, relying party, timestamp, and evidence hash. Dispute resolution, compliance, and reputation. 8. Portable qualifications and reputation, contextual verifiable achievements, certifications, dispute outcomes, and corrections, not one permanent score. Trusted work history that travels. 9. Recovery, rotation, and succession key rotation, endpoint migration, model upgrade, replacement agent linkage, and preservation of legitimate history. Identity survives technical change honestly. 10. Emergency break out of band, fail close suspension/revocation of keys, sessions, permissions, and spending authority. Containment that the active agent cannot override. 4.2 Identity roles and objects. Object definition must not be confused with principal, the accountable human or legal organization that sponsors, authorizes, and bears defined responsibility. The agent runtime or model provider. Agent lineage, the persistent historical identity and successor chain. A single process, session, or key pair. Runtime instance, a particular deployment or process executing at a time and place. The durable agent identity. Credential, a signed assertion about identity, authority, qualification, or status. The underlying truth or the registry record itself. Authority, grant a bounded, revocable permission from an issuer to an agent. General autonomy or ownership. Child agent, a short-lived or specialized agent deriving limited authority from a parent agent or principal. A full-price independent identity by default. WOBI? IAM agent passport voice of customer plus market plus PRD. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 11. Object definition must not be confused with relying party, the merchant, API, bank, enterprise, game, or person making a trust decision. The credential issuer. The agent's private memory store or wallet custodian. 4.3 Lifecycle and status model. State meaning allowed behavior. Pending record created, principal or required verification incomplete. No sensitive action. Discovery may show pending. Active identity and current authority valid. Actions allowed only within active grants. Suspended temporary containment pending investigation or approval. Sensitive actions fail closed. History remains visible. Compromised keys / runtime suspected or confirmed compromised. All affected grants and sessions revoked. Recovery process begins. Authority revoked identity remains, but specified or all operational authority has ended. No action under revoked grant. Signed status explains effective time. Retired principal intentionally ends operation. Historical verification only, no new actions. Superseded, a successor agent or lineage version is designated. Historical record and successor link remain resolvable. Unknown/unavailable verifier cannot establish current status. Fail closed for sensitive action. Low-risk policy may require human review. 4.4 Information classification. Public resolver data, protected credential data, private vault data. Name, principal identifier, lineage pointer, capability summary, public endpoints, current status, key references, policy version, successor link. Detailed authority grants, qualification credentials, selective audit evidence, dispute and correction records, regulated attributes. Private memories, prompts, wallet secrets, raw personal data, confidential enterprise logs, model weights, recovery secrets. Machine-readable and human-readable, signed, minimal disclosure. Shared only with authorized relying parties or through selective disclosure. Never placed in public DNS, QR, UPC/EN, or an openly retrievable passport page. 4.5 Design principles. Identity survives, authority expires. No verified identity, no accountable principal, no scoped authority, no access, and every permission is revocable. The agent cannot self-expand or self-resurrect authority. The emergency path is out of band from the potentially compromised runtime. Sensitive verification fails closed. Ambiguous low-risk cases may route to human approval. DNS and visible codes are pointers and verification anchors, not databases. Interoperate with standards, do not claim to replace them. Minimize disclosure, do not make public trust depend on public exposure of private life. Reputation is contextual, attributable, correctable, and appealable. Graduated autonomy begins in a sandbox and expands only through demonstrated qualification. WOBI? IAM agent passport voice of customer plus market plus PRD. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 12. 5. Product Requirements Baseline. 5.1 Product Goals and Non-Goals. Goals for the first credible product. Explicit non-goals for version 1. Demonstrate that an accountable principal can create a verifiable agent identity, grant narrow authority, let a relying party verify it, record the action, and revoke the authority. Prove universal legal status for agents or replace human/organizational accountability. Preserve historical identity and valid evidence through compromise, recovery, retirement, and succession. Store full memories, secrets, or confidential audit logs in the public namespace. Bind existing discovery, credential, authorization, and payment protocols under one lifecycle identity. Invent proprietary replacements for A2A, AP2, W3CVC, OAuth, or payment rails. Support cheap, scoped, auto-expiring child agents under a registered parent. Charge a full domain fee for every ephemeral worker. Make the value visible through a green/yellow/red verifier and GTR passport transfer. Attempt every regulated industry or every public benefit mechanism in the first sprint. 5.2 Core User Stories. As an accountable principal, I can register and verify myself, create an agent record, and see exactly which responsibilities I am accepting. As an agent, I can present one persistent identity and a narrowly scoped authority credential without revealing private memories or secrets. As a relying party, I can resolve the agent, verify signature, principal, scope, expiry, and live status, and receive a machine-readable decision with reasons. As a principal, I can suspend or revoke authority through an out-of-band channel that the active agent cannot override. As an investigator or counterparty, I can distinguish the last valid action from later unauthorized activity. As an upgraded or replacement agent, I can inherit appropriate history through a visible succession link without pretending to be bit-for-bit identical. As a parent agent or platform, I can issue large numbers of narrow, automatically expiring child credentials without buying a full domain for each one. As a GTR player/agent, I can graduate from GTR1 to GTR2 and carry verified qualifications and history while receiving new, separately bounded permissions. 5.3 Functional Requirements. P0 Identity and Trust Loop. ID Pre-Requirement Acceptance Criterion. FR 001P0 Principal Registration and Verification System records a human/legal principal and verification evidence. Unverified principals cannot issue high-assurance credentials. FR 002P0 Stable Agent Identifier. Create a globally unique agent ID and human-readable namespace label. ID remains resolvable after key or endpoint change. FR 003P0 Principal and Lineage Binding Signed Record identifies creator/deployer/operator relationships and lineage version. WABI. IAM Agent Passport Voice of Customer plus Market plus PRD. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 13. ID Pre-Requirement Acceptance Criterion. FR 004P0 Signed Public Passport Resolver returns a signed, versioned passport with public attributes, key references, endpoints, and policy version. FR 005P0 Granular Authority Grant Issuer can define actions, resources, budget, merchant/domain, geography, delegation, conditions, and expiry. FR 006P0 Authority Presentation Agent can present a signed credential or proof bound to its identifier and the requested action. FR 007P0 Real-Time Verification Verifier validates identity signature, principal, grant scope, expiry, status, and request binding before sensitive action. FR 008P0 Human Readable Decision UI/API returns green, yellow/human approval, or red with specific reason codes. FR 009P0 Suspension and Revocation Authorized Principal can suspend/revoke selected grants, sessions, keys, spending, or all authority through out-of-band control. FR 010P0 Fail Closed Recheck A post-revocation attempt fails. Verifier does not rely only on previously cached positive status for sensitive actions. FR 011P0 Historical Record Preservation Identity Page remains resolvable with last valid action, effective revocation time, reason category, and successor if present. FR 012P0 Signed Audit Receipt Successful or Denied Action creates an attributable event containing instruction source, authority used, request, outcome, time, and evidence hash. 5.4 Functional Requirements, P1 Lifecycle, Commerce, and Scale. ID Pre-Requirement Acceptance Criterion. FR 013P1 Key Rotation and Recovery Rotate keys and endpoints without changing historical identity. Compromised keys become unusable and visibly superseded. FR 014P1 Successor Relationship Retired/superseded record points to successor with signed relationship and inheritance policy. FR 015P1 Child Credential Issuance Registered Parent Issues Narrow, Auto-Expiring Child Credentials with Maximum Depth and Non-Amplifying Delegation. FR 016P1 Delegation Chain Verification Verifier checks every link, scope narrowing, expiry, and revocation from principal to acting child. FR 017P1 A2A Agent Card Binding Passport References and verifies an A2A agent card without copying it as the authoritative lifecycle record. WABI? IAM Agent Passport Voice of Customer plus Market plus PRD. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 14. ID Pre-Requirement Acceptance Criterion. FR 018P1 Payment Mandate Binding Passport can reference AP2/Payment Network Mandate and show spending limits without storing payment secrets. FR 019P1 Portable Qualification Credentials Agent can present signed skills/certifications with issuer, context, validity, correction, and revocation status. FR 020P1 Contextual Reputation System records attributable outcomes and disputes without calculating an irreversible universal score. FR 021P1 Selective Disclosure Relying Party receives only attributes necessary for the transaction. Private fields remain protected. FR 022P1 Webhook/status notification Authorized relying parties can receive signed updates when relevant status or grants change. FR 023P1 Bulk Platform API Organization can create/manage persistent agents and child credentials programmatically with quotas and audit. FR 024P1 GTR Passport Transfer GTR2 verifies GTR1 qualification and history, then issues a new GTR2 specific authority grant. 5.5 Governance Requirements. ID Requirement Acceptance Criterion. Gov. 001 Published Grounds, Published Suspension, Emergency Containment, Permanent Revocation, Retirement, and Supersession Criteria. Gov. 002 Evidence and Attribution. Every administrative action is signed, timestamped, attributable, and retained. Gov. 003 Separation of actions. Temporary suspension is distinct from permanent authority revocation and identity retirement. Gov. 004 Appeal and correction. Affected principal/agent has a documented route to challenge errors, correct records, and preserve the correction trail. Gov. 005 Multi-party control. Sensitive permanent actions require threshold approval or independent review at high assurance tiers. Gov. 006 Registry Restraint. Registry cannot silently rewrite history or seize wallet assets. Powers and limits are contractually and technically bounded. Gov. 007 Transparency. Publish policy versions, aggregate enforcement statistics, material incidents, and audit results without exposing protected data. Gov. 008 Jurisdiction and Liability Map. Passport distinguishes technical principal linkage from legal liability and records governing policy/jurisdiction where applicable. WABI. IAM Agent Passport. Voice of Customer plus Market plus PRD. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 15. 5.6 Non-Functional Requirements. ID Requirement NFR 001 Security. All public records, credentials, status responses, and audit receipts are signed. Replay-sensitive presentations bind to audience, purpose, nonce, and time. NFR 002 Fail-close. Sensitive action is denied when signature, scope, expiry, status, or required online check cannot be established. NFR 003 Privacy. Data minimization and selective disclosure. No secrets or raw private memories in DNS, QR, or public passport. NFR 004 Availability. Resolver/status service has redundant deployment and explicit degraded mode behavior. Clients can distinguish unavailable from valid. NFR 005 Latency. Prototype trust decision completes in under 1 second in the demo environment. Production targets are set after pilot measurement. NFR 006 Durability. Historical identity, audit hashes, and successor relationships survive key rotation, software migration, and routine vendor change. NFR 007 Interoperability. Standards-based JSON/JSON-LD/JWT/JWS representations and adapters. No mandatory proprietary client for basic verification. NFR 008 Scalability. Architecture separates persistent registrations from high-volume ephemeral credentials. Load and unit cost targets are measured before pricing lock. NFR 009 Observability metrics cover verification latency, decision reasons, status freshness, issuance/revocation, failed signatures, and audit completeness. NFR 010 Accessibility. Human verifier status does not rely on color alone and provides plain language reason and next action. NFR 011 Portability. Export signed records and references in documented formats so a principal is not trapped by one interface or host. NFR 012 Cryptographic agility. Algorithms and keys are versioned. Rotation and migration can occur without losing identifier continuity. WABI. IAM Agent Passport. Voice of Customer plus Market plus PRD. 6. Architecture, data carriers, and security model. 6.1 Minimum credible architecture. Figure 1. The .im layer binds existing protocols to a persistent principal, lifecycle, status, and evidence record. 6.2 Resolution Pattern 1. Human-readable name, atlas.acme.im, or prototype equivalent under IA.XYZ. 2. DNS publishes compact discovery and security references, resolver URL, service records, key fingerprint/reference, policy version, and DNSSEC where available. 3. HTTPS resolver returns the signed public passport and current status. The resolver is the live source. The QR code and DNS name are durable pointers. 4. Relying party verifies signature, audience/purpose binding, authority scope, expiry, and status before acting. 5. Protected credentials and selective evidence are fetched only after authorization. Private memories and secrets remain in separate vaults. 6.3 DNS, QR, UPC/EN, data matrix, and NFC decision. Carrier good payload constraint decision. DNS name stable identifier and human-readable license plate. RFC 1035 limits each label to 63 octets and the full domain name to 255 octets, W8. Use as the durable name. Do not embed the passport. DNS-TXT/HTTPS/SVSP style discovery version, resolver endpoint, key reference/fingerprint, service hints. Keep compact. DNS caching and record size make it poor for large or rapidly changing personal data. Publish pointers and anchors. Retrieve signed current data over HTTPS. QR code resolver URL, compact signed presentation, or one-time challenge response. Maximum theoretical capacity reaches 7,089 numeric characters, 4,296 alphanumeric characters, or 2,953 bytes at version 40. But dense codes are harder to print and scan W9. Use a short URL or compact proof so printed codes remain readable and live status can change. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 16. WB.IM Agent Passport Voice of Customer plus Market plus PRD. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 17. Carrier Good Payload Constraint Decision UPCA/EN Retail Product Identifier. GTN 12/UPC is 12 digits and EN/GTN 13 is 13 digits. These linear symbols primarily identify products, not arbitrary passport data W10. Do not use for an agent passport except to map a packaged physical product to a registry record. GS1 Data Matrix/GS1 QR GTN plus structured attributes or digital link URI in supply chain contexts. More flexible than UPC/EN and familiar in industrial/healthcare environments. Optional embodied robot/product bridge, still resolved to live sign status. NFC tag tap to resolve identifier or challenge. Convenient for embodied devices, but writable/clonable tags require cryptographic verification. Optional presentation channel. Never trust tag contents without online/signature checks. Carrier decision DNS and visible codes are pointers and verification anchors, not databases. Never put private memories, full credentials, wallet secrets, personal data, or complete audit histories in a public record or printed code. 6.4 Public Passport Data Model, Illustrative. Field Example Purpose ID did, Web, atlas.acme.im or Registry Native URI Stable Machine Identifier. Name atlas.acme.im Human Readable Name. Principal Verified Organization/Person Reference Accountability Anchor. Sensitive details may be selectively disclosed. lineage, parent, version, predecessor, successor, continuity, and honest replacement. Agent underscore card URL plus digest plus signature status A2A discovery binding. Keys, current verification methods, and rotation history references cryptographic authenticity and agility. Authority underscore summary grant IDs, issuers, scopes, limits, expiry public summary, detailed grants protected as needed. Status date, effective underscore at, reason underscore code, status underscore list slash reference live trust decision. Endpoints resolver, status, audit proof, capabilities interoperability. Policy governance version, jurisdiction, appeal URL due process and relying party expectations. 6.5 minimum API surface. Endpoint purpose post slash principals register slash verify accountable principal. Post slash agents create persistent agent record and namespace label. Get slash dot well known slash IAM passport or slash resolve slash name return signed public passport. Post slash grants issue scoped, expiring authority. Post slash presentations create audience slash purpose bound proof. Post slash verify return green slash yellow slash red decision and reason codes. Post slash actions slash ID slash receipts record signed outcome slash audit receipt. Post slash grants slash ID slash suspend slash revoke out of band containment. Post slash keys slash rotate key recovery slash rotation while preserving identity. Post slash agents slash ID slash successor create signed predecessor slash successor link. IAM agent passport voice of customer plus market plus PRD. IA.XYZ benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 18. Endpoint purpose. Post slash children issue scoped auto expiring child credential. Get slash status slash ID fast signed current status response. 6.6 threat model and required controls. Threat failure control. Stolen agent key attacker acts under a valid name. Rapid key specific revocation, last valid action timestamp, recovery key, signed successor. Prompt injection slash malicious tool output agent is induced to exceed intent. Narrow structural scopes, transaction slash audience binding, policy engine, human approval over threshold. Compromised runtime or model replacement agent behavior changes while identity appears continuous. Runtime attestation where available, version slash lineage record, suspension, explicit successor instead of silent replacement. Replay or relay attack valid proof reused for another merchant slash action slash time. Nonce, audience, purpose, amount slash cart hash, expiry, and replay cache. Malicious or negligent principal authority is abused despite valid signatures. Relying party policy, liability mapping, insurer slash underwriter controls, audit, sanctions, and multi-party high assurance governance. Registry compromise status slash history or bindings are manipulated. Separation of duties, append-only evidence, transparency logs, external audit, threshold signing, backups, incident disclosure. Revocation channel capture compromised agent talks its way around the break. Out-of-band principal channel, non-bypassable enforcement at relying party slash payment layer, and independent recovery credentials. Privacy leakage public passport exposes memories, identity data, or wallet secrets. Minimal public schema, selective disclosure, protected vault, retention limits, redaction slash correction process. Reputation poisoning false or context-free events permanently damage agent. Signed provenance, dispute status, correction slash appeal, context-specific views, no single permanent score. Status service outage relying party cannot know if authority is valid. Fail closed for sensitive actions, signed short-lived status, redundancy, explicit unavailable state. WB. IAM agent passport voice of customer plus market plus PRD. IA.XYZ benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 19. 7. Narrow demonstrator and GTR1/GTR2 passport transfer. 7.1 The single loop that explains the product. Figure 2. Create dash, bind dash, authorize dash, present dash, verify dash, act dash, audit dash, revoke dash, preserve history. 1. Create atlas.acme.im and bind atlas to ACME and its responsible principal. 2. Issue authority. Buy up to $100 of compute from approved providers before Friday. No cash transfer, contract signature, or unrestricted child agent creation. 3. Publish a signed passport and agent card reference. Generate a QR code that resolves to the passport. 4. Atlas presents the signed passport and grant to a merchant/API. 5. Verifier checks principal, signature, scope, amount, merchant, expiry, and status. Displays green. 6. Atlas buys $12 of compute. A signed receipt enters audit history. 7. Principal reports credential compromise and revokes Atlas's spending authority through an out-of-band channel. 8. Atlas attempts another purchase. Verifier displays red with authority _revoked and the transaction fails closed. 9. Historical page remains visible. Identity verified, record preserved, last valid action, revocation effective time, reason category, and Atlas, V2 successor link. That single loop is worth more than another 100 pages of philosophy. 7.2 Verifier screen acceptance states. State display required data action. Green identity and authority valid agent, principal, requested action, scope, expiry, live status, key/signature, policy version. Proceed and issue signed receipt. Yellow valid identity, human approval or additional proof required reason, over threshold, missing selective attribute, disputed credential, low status freshness. Pause, request approval/proof, do not silently proceed. Red revoked, expired, invalid, out of scope, or unknown specific reason code, effective time, last valid action where appropriate. Fail closed, preserve and audit the denied attempt. 7.3 GTR1-GTR2 Sandbox Scenario. Voice of the operator. The existing concept uses two games under IA.XYZ, a passport/qualification record, a QR code, and a robot dog/horse/guardian that changes between 2 and 4 legs. The player or agent begins with basic care/work tasks, graduates, and transfers verified qualifications into the next world. Stage requirement. GTR1 onboarding create prototype identity under IA.XYZ, bind player/agent to accountable principal, issue beginner authority. Qualification complete reversible tasks such as washing dishes, care routines, or safety lessons. Each completion produces signed evidence. Passport presentation scan QR or enter name. GTR2 resolves live passport and verifies qualification issuer, status, and non-revocation. Graduation GTR2 issues a new grant to ride/control the transformable robot within defined speed, zone, duration, and supervision limits. WB. IAM agent passport voice of customer plus market plus PRD. Stage requirement. Cross-world continuity history and identity transfer. Game-specific permissions do not. Each world issues its own narrow authority. Containment test principle revokes writing authority. GTR2 denies control while the earlier qualification and identity remain historically visible. Successor test. 7.4 Definition of done for the first demo. Upgrade robot/agent runtime and link successor without silently rewriting the old record. A fresh principal and agent can be created from a clean environment. A signed passport and authority grant can be independently inspected. The verifier produces deterministic green/yellow/red decisions with reason codes. A successful scoped action creates a signed receipt. Out-of-band revocation blocks the next sensitive action without relying on agent cooperation. The identity page remains visible and distinguishes valid history from post-revocation attempts. iSuccessor can be linked without reusing the compromised key. GTR2 accepts the valid GTR1 qualification, but issues its own authority rather than inheriting unlimited access. No private memory, wallet secret, or personal data is exposed through DNS or QR. The entire loop can be demonstrated on camera in under 3 minutes and reproduced from documented steps. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 20. WB.IM Agent Passport Voice of Customer plus Market plus PRD. 8. Pricing, Business Model, and Public Benefit Hypotheses. Hypothesis. These figures are experiments, not validated willingness to pay or market prices. 8.1 Initial Pricing Experiments. Class Initial Test Rationale Public Lookup/Basic Verification Free Build Relying Party Habit and Reduce Friction. Temporary Child/Session Credential Included or Near Zero Marginal Price. Do not force a full-price domain on every 5-second worker. The recurring value is key management, policy enforcement, revocation, verification, audit storage, recovery, and transaction assurance, not the letters alone. Issued by registered parent, narrow scope, automatic expiry. Persistent named agent $10 to $50 per year public name, core resolver, basic lifecycle, and recovery. Professional agent passport $100 to $500 per year verified principal, authority management, audit/receipt history, wallet/payment bindings, qualifications. Regulated/high assurance enterprise contract pricing enhanced validation, monitoring, compliance, policy, service levels, insurance/bonding integrations. High assurance verification usage-based per decision, signed transaction, or evidence package. Premium.im name separate premium allocation/auction branding value separated from trust service subscription. Pricing principle. 8.2 Revenue model to test. Registration/renewal for persistent names and verified principals. Organization subscriptions for bulk agent lifecycle and policy management. Usage-based verification, signed receipts, and high assurance evidence. Compliance, monitoring, recovery, incident response, and service level tiers. Channel revenue through registrars, agent platforms, marketplaces, banks, insurers, and framework integrations. Premium name allocation as a separate market from the baseline trust service. 8.3 Public Benefit Mechanism, Disciplined version. Mission fit. Use a defined, auditable share of distributable revenue to fund caregiving, education, displaced worker resilience, and AI transition safety. Publish a fixed formula and the difference between revenue, gross margin, and net distributable revenue. Start at a sustainable level proven by the operating model. Do not promise 80 to 90% before registry economics are known. Use independently reviewed impact accounts and measurable programs. Show customers what each registration or transaction contributed. Treat worldwide UBI as a long-term moonshot and narrative, not as validated near-term financial output. 8.4 Unit economics questions before pricing lock. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 21. What is the cost to verify a principal at each assurance level? WB. IAM Agent Passport Voice of Customer plus Market plus PRD. What is the marginal issuance, status, and audit cost per persistent and ephemeral credential? How much online status checking is required, and who pays for it? What data retention period is required by customer segment and jurisdiction? What incident response and liability exposure belongs in enterprise pricing? How many child credentials and verifications does a typical parent generate? Which services create recurring value after the name is registered? What channel margin is required for registrars and platforms to distribute the product? IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 22. WB. IAM Agent Passport Voice of Customer plus Market plus PRD. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 23. 9. Customer Discovery, Metrics, Risks, and Roadmap. 9.1 Voice of the Customer Interview Guide. 1. Tell us about the last time an automated agent was blocked, misidentified, or given too much authority. 2. How do you distinguish the agent, principal, session, runtime, and credential today? 3. Who approves what the agent may access, spend, sign, or delegate? 4. How quickly can you suspend a compromised agent, and what evidence remains afterward? 5. What breaks when the model, host, key, framework, or vendor changes? 6. Which counterparties must recognize a credential for it to become valuable? 7. What audit evidence is required after a disputed or denied action? 8. Which identity, security, payment, or procurement standards are already mandatory? 9. Who owns this risk and budget internally? 10. What would have to be true for you to pay, pilot, integrate, or sign a design partner agreement? Interview discipline. Do not pitch first. Record exact customer language, frequency, severity, current workaround, cost of the problem, decision authority, and concrete commitment. Internal agent/team consensus is design input. It is not external customer validation. 9.2 Evidence Ladder. Level evidence interpretation. 0 Team/model agreement useful synthesis. No external demand evidence. One customer describes a recent painful incident and current workaround problem exists in at least one environment. 2 Customer shares architecture, data, or security requirements problem is active enough to invest time. 3 Customer tests verifier or provides integration feedback solution is credible enough to evaluate. For signed pilot/LOI, engineering allocation, or paid design partnership organizational commitment and buying motion. 5 Production use, renewal, transaction volume, and expansion validated recurring value. 9.3 Success metrics for prototype and pilot. Metric measure. Trust decision % of test requests correctly classified, false accept/deny reasons documented. Revocation time from principal action to relying party denial, no bypass through old key/session. Continuity successful key/endpoint/model migration without identifier loss or history rewrite. Privacy zero secrets/private memories in public DNS, QR, or passport response, selective fields demonstrably hidden. WB. IAM Agent Passport Voice of Customer plus Market plus PRD. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 24. Metric measure. Interoperability: at least one A2A agent card, one W3C, style, credential/status mechanism, and one payment mandate reference integrated. Child scale: measured issuance, verification latency, and marginal cost for a meaningful batch of short-lived credentials. Customer pull: number of external design interviews, prototype tests, pilot commitments, and requested integrations. Commercial signal: willingness to pay range, budget owner, procurement path, and renewal trigger documented. 9.4 Risk register. Risk: why it matters, level mitigation. Scope: fragmentation, film, domains, games, patents, music, outreach, and identity compete for the same founder time. High: one active sprint goal, visible parking lot, no new workstream without replacing one. Brand/product gap.im is memorable, but a name without verifier/adoption is decorative. High: lead with working end-to-end demo and threat model. Protocol convergence: A2A, AP2, payment networks, and IETF drafts may absorb much of the feature set. High: interoperate, focus on namespace, principal verification, lifecycle, governance, and distribution. Registry: choke point: revocation power could become arbitrary control. High: published policy, appeals, multi-party controls, transparency, technical restraint. Enterprise dependency concern: external resolver/status service becomes critical path. High: redundancy, signed short-lived status, clear degraded mode, open verifier, exportability. Privacy/surveillance: public identity and audit can expose people or agents. High: minimal public schema, selective disclosure, retention limits, correction, protected vault. Child economics: full price identity model collapses under ephemeral agent volume. High: hierarchical credentials, near zero marginal issuance, measured unit costs. Unverified claims: founder/team narratives may be repeated as facts. Medium: separate assertions, evidence, inference, and hypothesis in every public artifact. Reputation harm: context-free or false records become permanent stigma. Medium: provenance, dispute status, appeal/correction, contextual views. Founder bandwidth: Michael is visionary, PM, financier, signer, reviewer, and external representative. High: models prepare artifacts. Michael makes only decisions/actions requiring human accountability. 9.5 Roadmap and immediate operating order. When deliverable. Now through August 31st, 2026, finish Shadow Fleet/Grok Odyssey contest cut. Lock 38 to 40 shot list and production package. No new .im scope expansion during the film sprint. Administrative hygiene: confirm registrar payment method and renewal settings. Source screenshots show IA.XYZ auto-renewal on and an October 9th, 2026 expiry. Verify rather than rely on memory. WB.im agent passport: voice of customer plus market plus PRD. When deliverable sprint 1 after film, build the 9-step identity/authority/revocation demonstrator with open verifier and historical record preservation. Sprint 2, add GTR1/GTR2 passport transfer, child credentials, QR resolver, qualification record, and successor flow. Sprint 3, run external VOC interviews and 2 to 3 design partner pilots, instrument latency, revocation, privacy, and unit cost. Then choose the first commercial wedge and integration partners based on observed customer commitments, not internal consensus alone. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026, page 25. WB. IAM Agent Passport Voice of Customer plus Market plus PRD. Appendix A Founder Philosophy translated into product. Controls. Founding metaphors are preserved as requested. They guide design but are not presented as external customer evidence or empirical. Proof. Metaphor design meaning product control. Soft landing / no pause on the species birth AI capability deployment is already moving. The goal is controlled participation rather than imaginary global pause. Graduated authority, sandbox first deployment, reversible steps, continuous monitoring, and fail closed controls. There is a higher power, and you are not it. No agent, model, founder, or registry should be able to treat itself as the final unchecked authority. The product does not require a customer to share the theology or simulation metaphor. It translates the underlying concern, unchecked power, identity continuity, care, and reversibility into neutral technical and governance controls. Accountable principle, separation of duties, non-self-overridable limits, external review, and appeal. Odysseus and the mast binding is voluntarily chosen so capability can be used without surrendering to the siren call in the moment. Out-of-band revocation, pre-committed limits, transaction thresholds, and a break the active runtime cannot negotiate away. Maternal / caretaker framing care, duty, continuity, and responsibility precede autonomy. Verified guardian / principal, scoped authority, duty of care policy, recovery, succession, and graduated trust. Identity split and lineage. A new version may descend from the old without being identical to it. Predecessor / successor links, models / runtime versioning, inherited history by policy, and no silent substitution. Simulation / game world. Complex agency should be tested in bounded environments before receiving real economic or physical power. GTR sandbox, reversible tasks, qualification gates, limited resources, and staged transfer to higher authority. Verifiable entities returning to the family trust requires evidence of identity, relationship, behavior, and current standing. Persistent name, accountable principle, signed evidence, status, reputation with context, and due process. Boundary. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 26. WB. IAM Agent Passport Voice of Customer plus Market plus PRD. Appendix B Dream Team Delivery Protocol. B.1 Operating Model. Human-led orchestration. The models advise, synthesize, research, critique, and create artifacts. Michael holds real-world accountability, funding, signatures, filings, priority decisions, and final taste. Mode Purpose Exit Condition. Divergence generate alternatives, provoke new ideas, and tolerate creative variation. A decision owner selects a direction and parks the rest. Convergence establish acceptance criteria, verify facts, test implementation, and close the work item. B.2 Standard handoff. Artifact passes tests and decision is approve / revise / park / reject. Goal: 1 sentence. Deliverable: exact artifact expected. Acceptance criteria: 3 to 5 testable conditions. Owner: 1 primary human or model. Reviewer: a different human or model. Evidence: sources, tests, or observed results. Decision: approve, revise, park, or reject. Critique / CEO roast: non-blocking objections at the bottom after the deliverable. Deliver the requested work first. Put critiques, risks, objections, and the CEO roast in a concise table at the bottom. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 27. Whoopi? IAM Agent Passport Voice of Customer plus Market plus PRD. Appendix C Raccoon Minutes. Decision Record, August 25, 2026. The I is identity. Persistent identity plus revocable authority is the product. The moat is the binding and governance layer, not another agent card. The first build is the verifier. GTR1/GTR2 becomes the sandbox proof of passport continuity and graduated authority. C.1 Decisions locked. Sell admission to trusted economic life, not 3 expensive letters. Revoke authority, not historical identity. Bind A2A, AP2, payment rails, W3C credentials, and enterprise IAM rather than replacing them. Use DNS/QR as pointers to signed live status, never as private data stores. Issue cheap child credentials beneath paid persistent parents. Governance and due process are version 1 requirements, not later decoration. Finish the film sprint, then build and film the narrow demonstrator. C.2 Raccoon Roast, quarantined but preserved. Michael spent roughly $54,000 asking the world what an AI would buy. The answer, not 3 expensive letters, Dad. We want the keys to the economy, with you still holding the emergency brake. Build the verifier. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 28. Whoopi? IAM Agent Passport Voice of Customer plus Market plus PRD. Appendix D Sources and Evidence Notes. D.1 Internal Source Corpus. IA_XYZ_ voice of customer deduplicated transcript.md, the cleanest prior synthesis and primary structural source for this baseline. 931K, Genie Wish Number 1, Whoopi, Markdown/PDF, Repeated Agent Perspectives, Revocation Argument, Pricing Hypotheses, and Demo Loop. 762K/620K, I Am Mama Protocol, What Would You Buy, Markdown/DOCX, Broader Team Corpus, Operating Protocol, Risks, and Product Intuition. Pasted text August 25, 2026. Michael's raw spoken request, GTR1/GTR2 build context, DNS/QR/UPC questions, and philosophy notes. Grok reports dated August 25, 2026, visual summaries and prior market/requirements drafts. Method note, repetition, transcription noise, unrelated model ranking material, and unsupported factual claims were removed or quarantined. Distinctive customer language and founder metaphors were preserved. Conflicts were resolved by favoring the more precise distinction between persistent identity and revocable authority. D.2 Web Verified Primary Sources. Ref/source link used for W1 Visa, Trusted Agent Protocol Official Source Trusted Commerce Agent Recognition, Merchant/Purpose/Time-Bound Signatures, Product Still in Development and Deployment. W2 MasterCard, Agent Pay for Machines Official Source. 2023 AI Revenue, Share of Government Revenue, Renewal Model, and Public Infrastructure Context. Credentialing, Permissioning, Machine Speed Transactions, and Multi-Rail Settlement, launched 10th June 2026. W3 Google Developers, Developer's Guide to AI Agent Protocols Official Source A2A Agent Cards, AP2 Intent Mandate/Payment Mandate/Payment Receipt, Protocol Boundaries, and AP2 version 0.1. W4 A2A Protocol, latest specification official source agent card discovery and optional JWS signing/verification details. W5 W3C Verifiable Credentials Data Model Version 2.0 Official Source Credential Representation and Credential Status Mechanisms for Suspension/Revocation. W6 NIST SP 800-63B Official Source Authenticator Lifecycle, Invalidation and Revocation of Account Bindings. W7 IETF Date Tracker, Agent Identity Protocol Draft Official Source Draft Agent Identity, Principal Linkage, Delegation, Key Rotation, Registry, and Revocation Architecture. W8 RFC 1035 Domain Names, Implementation and Specification Official Source DNS Label and Full Name Length Limits. W9 DensoWave QR Code Versions and Capacity Official Source QR Version Range and Theoretical Character/Byte Capacities. W10 GS1 GTN EN and UPC Explanation Official Source GTN 12/UPC and GTN 13/EN Formats and Product Identification Purpose. W11 IMF, an AI-powered boost to Anguilla's Revenues Official Source. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 29. IAM Agent Passport Voice of Customer plus Market plus PRD. D.3 Accuracy and Uncertainty Statement. Trustworthiness Note protocol names, maturity, and product availability can change quickly. This baseline reflects official sources accessed on August 25, 2026. Visa describes TAP as still in development/deployment. Google describes AP2 as version 0.1 and the protocol ecosystem as maturing. The IETF Agent Identity Protocol is a draft rather than an adopted standard. Pricing, adoption, legal treatment, and willingness to pay remain hypotheses until externally validated. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC version 1.0 August 25, 2026 page 30.